Like, so I watched a TikTok last night that was like, this is just a reminder. If you're going through a really hard time and world's beating you up, just know that there are people out there who are doing it with kids.
I get people send me that all the time. They're like, oh my gosh, my life is so stressful, but then I remember that you're doing it with a kid and I feel so much better. And I'm like, well, I'm glad I can make you feel better because I'm barely holding on here. Welcome back to another episode of Carwell Chronicles. We are your hosts, Emily
and Sarah.
And today we have Taylor, otherwise known as the Wandering Michigander on social media here with us today. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, I've been following you for probably a decade at this point, honestly, like since you started, right? Which I feel like everyone in Michigan does. Like when I talk about influencers to other Airbnb hosts and just in our community, I will list off everyone else and nobody will know who they are. And then I say the Wandering Michigander and everyone's like,
oh my gosh. I didn't even know that was a thing. That's crazy.
Yeah, you are Michigan famous.
Thanks.
Yeah. So I was just, for our listeners, I was just telling Taylor before this episode started that we know so much about all of the adventures that she's had and so much of, you know, introducing us to fun things to do in Michigan, but we've never really heard your story. We've never heard what got you into social media. And so let's kind of start there of like, how'd you get into the space? How'd you end up building this personal brand? Like, start from the beginning.
Yeah, I try to wrap this up a little bit because it could go on for a long time. But essentially, I worked in corporate social media right out of college. And it was around the time, it was right before COVID happened. And that was when TikTok was blowing up and everything. And I was the youngest person on the team. And I had been working in social media for a little while. So I knew like the ins and outs of the algorithm on Instagram and then all kinds of stuff like that. But TikTok was the big thing that everyone's like, what is that? And everyone's like, it's just teenage dancing. And everyone's like, you need to figure that out. Because it was like my job to understand the platforms and whatnot. And I basically was like, no, there's no way I'm doing TikTok. That's just stupid. And then COVID happened and I was like locked in my house for how many days and I'm just like bored. And I'm like, I kept getting ads for TikTok of the like, they were like the dancing guy ad.
I'm bored in the house, but I'm in the house bored.
That was exactly what it was. And I'm like, oh, I'll download it. And so I immediately am just inclined to know like how the social platforms work because I'm in marketing and that's the way that you market. The best way to market is social media. And so I'm like, how are these people going viral? And it just like made no sense to me because that was not happening on Instagram. And I basically, like while it initially started with work, being like, how do you work this? I was like, how did people go viral? So I started researching all the things on like how to build a brand, how people are going viral, how to even make a TikTok. Like I literally had to YouTube how to make a TikTok. Like how are people doing this? It was so like just thinking back is funny. But I started making videos here and there and nothing was like going viral. And then literally just one day I was like, what if I just make Michigan videos? Yeah. Because I had been like trying to post Michigan photography and stuff on Instagram, but it was so saturated. There were a million photographers, but no one was doing Michigan videos of like where to go and stuff like that. So I put all the pieces together of what it takes to create a viral video, like a 3-second hook, a story, and like something that people will follow along and like go with you on. And I just came up with the slogan, like me and my roommate are going to go to all these different places in Michigan and follow along. And that was like my thing. And people just kept following along. And the first time I made a video like that, I gained like 5,000 followers and it got like 18,000 views. And I was like, oh, like this is the first one that has worked. And then like I still had my corporate job, but I was working from home during COVID. And so I would try to like squeeze in little adventures like after work or on the weekends. And I just kept posting about it. And then I just kept gaining more followers. I think I had like 30,000 on TikTok over the span of like 4 months or something like that. And then I posted this bucket list video of like 5 bucket list places you should go in Michigan. And that just took off. And it got like 2 million views overnight. And I woke up to 100,000 followers.
Whoa. Good morning.
So I was like, whoa. And that is the way that TikTok worked at that time. It's a little different now, but it's like holy cow. And then a couple months later, Instagram came out with Reels, and no one was doing that on Instagram. And I was like, why don't I just post that on Instagram? So I started taking the TikToks and posting them on Instagram, and no one was doing that at the time. Like, I was, I guess, one of the early adopters in marketing terms, but because Instagram was rewarding people, my account just took off at that time. Like, yes, I was doing the strategies, but I also think it was like the right place at the right time, and I just like hit it on the mark, and Instagram grew and grew and grew, and the same thing happened to me on Instagram. In like less than a year, I had 100,000 followers. So yeah,
Here we
it was
are.
just like, I knew the marketing behind it, and then all of that stuff happened, and I was like, whoa, I guess I'm doing something here. And
You're doing something that works for sure.
yeah. And so it just kind of worked into brand deals and like tourism stuff, and became my job.
Yeah. I have so many questions about the algorithm, but I won't blast those to you right now. What I want to know is, because like as a travel content creator, you really could have gone like really vast with your branding. And obviously being from Michigan, I would assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the reason that you chose Michigan is because when you were in corporate America, you could just like take these trips and it was easier to film content close. But have you thought about, or did you think about at the beginning, not branding yourself as the wandering Michigander and like doing something else? Or are you happy that you niched in that way?
Yeah, I guess it all happened so fast. I like initially just started posting it because it was fun, and I was doing that. Like you said, it was easy to do weekend trips. And I honestly thought that people just weren't aware of things to do in Michigan because I've traveled all over. I studied abroad with people all over the country, and no one knows what Michigan has like outside of Michigan. And so I've always just been excited to show people like what we have here, like Sleeping Bear Dunes, like the lakes. Like people that live in Michigan, we just take for granted like the Great Lakes, but outside of Michigan, they're like, what? Like they come here and they're like, this isn't a lake. And it's like, yeah, it's like a sea.
Yeah.
And they're like, you can't see across it. I'm like, it's not your like Podunk Lake in
It is not
Tennessee.
an inland lake. Yeah.
So I don't know. I've always been just excited to show people that. And it just kind of, and I love traveling. So I wasn't able to travel outside of Michigan. So that was like my only like mindset at the time. I never really thought about it. And like in college, I always wanted to have a travel blog, and I had like a little blog about all my different travels. Like I love Nashville. I studied abroad. Like I've done trips to Europe, but I never made that like my job. And this, I knew you had to have a niche to grow on social media. And so this just was my niche, and it happened so fast that I didn't even have time to like think about making it something else. But like as I got into it, I kind of felt a little trapped that I'm like known as this Michigan travel girl, and people are like, do you go outside the state of Michigan? I'm like, yeah.
In fact, I do.
I actually have traveled outside of Michigan a lot, and this was me like being forced to travel in Michigan. Like I wasn't able to jet set abroad to Europe. Like I had to discover things in my own backyard, and we have a lot to discover. So it has felt a little bit like people think I'm just this like Michigan travel girl, and I actually do travel a lot outside of Michigan. So that I've thought about making it like more broad, but then I don't know, it's just like a complicated subject of like the niche is what makes the channel work. And I've just kind of come to terms with the fact that like it is fun, but it is also my job, and it's like I can travel elsewhere and do all of that other stuff, and it can just be for fun. Like I don't have to post about it. And so I've kind of like dabbled in that of like, do I post about everything? Do I just keep it Michigan? And I'm still in the point of like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's like my brand, and like everything is Michigan. So I actually don't really mind it just being Michigan focused, because I can still travel, like treat it like a normal job. Like I take vacations outside of just the Michigan stuff. I don't have to post about it, but
I love that you have that viewpoint, that you like have the separation, and it kind of forces you to like unplug for a little bit. So I think that actually is super smart to think about it in that way.
Yeah.
I also love that you are like showing off Michigan. Obviously, being from here, we are constantly talking about it. And when her husband specifically came up here for the first time, they were like kids in a candy store. Like him and his friends, they took sand and they wanted to take water back to their friends, and they were amazed at what it is. And they were like, "There's so many trees here. We can't."
Where is he from?
Texas.
Oh, they call us tree trolls.
Yeah, he's like, what is going on here? Like, this looks like a whole different universe. And
Yeah, I have a friend from Texas who I brought up here, and she was like, everything's so fluffy and green. Like, I want to hug the trees. And I was like, you guys have no idea what you're missing.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But I will say, it's like, it's having that moment of when you say Michiganders take Michigan for granted, like both Emily and I are guilty of that because we moved to Texas being like, screw winter, like we hate it here, like it's so cold, like just ready, just itching to leave. And then when you bring people back, like my husband who's from Texas, and they said I'd never get a Texan out of Texas, and he comes to Michigan and he's like, what?
He calls himself Mr. Michigan
He literally, now he's like, I am Mr. Michigan. Like, I know more about Michigan than you do. And I'm like, I don't doubt it. Like, he is, even when we get chances to travel now, he's like, I want to go up north. I want to go to the UP.
I know. It's bizarre because the one thing I wanted to do in high school and like growing up was get out of Michigan. And I think that is a universal experience for almost everyone, is like, I need to be in the warm weather. I want to be in Florida.
Yeah.
And now it's like, I go to Florida every year. And I'm like, this is amazing. But then it's like, it's the same all the time there. And it's just like, I don't know if you get older, you appreciate it more, or like the more that I explore, I'm just like, I really love the change in scenery. And I honestly think that because this is my job, it's made me appreciate all the seasons more, because I used to hate winter. I hated cold weather. And now I kind of like love it. And I love the snow and I love skiing. And my parents are like, oh, it's snowing again. We need it to melt. I'm like, would you rather it be ugly and gross like all winter? I would rather it be pretty and snowy.
Yeah,
literally.
And so I can ski and like hike and do all the things outside. So
yeah, that was a big reason why we chose to live here in Grand Haven, because I was like, look, if I'm going to be in Michigan, I want heavy winters and I want beautiful summers. And it's a little bit cooler here in the summer. So it's like, 75, 80 all summer long. And then in the winter, if anybody is getting pummeled with snow, it's us. It's on the lakeshore. And so we've like, even when I go to my parents' 45 minutes inland, it's like not nearly as snowy as it is here. And so I'm like, look, if I'm going to have winter, like, let's have it. Like,
that's
let's
how
do snow.
I feel. And that's why I'm like called to the lake. It's like I grew up 15 minutes from Lake Michigan, and living in Grand Rapids, I love it, but I'm like still a little too far. I'm like, it's too far. And people are like, what do you mean it's only this long? But I'm like, I grew up going to the lake every day. Like, it's hard.
Towards the lake, it's like all white and icy and pretty, and then the further inland you get, it's like brown and gray, and like the winter that we all hate. And so it is so nice having the snow like hit us so much here.
Yeah. Well, and one thing I wanted to kind of circle back to as well is like you talking about how in 2020, when you were at home starting on TikTok, like it was kind of a right place, right time thing, because we have had so many conversations with creators. We started in 2019 and really took off in 2020 on TikTok as well. And so many people that we network with on a regular basis that now are creators and also in our industry had the same experience, right? Where all of us are like, if we would have known what kind of traction we were getting in 2020 and really understood what was going on at that point in time, we would have done nothing other than post on TikTok 24/7. 365 for the year of 2020, because the growth just isn't the same. Like we can still go viral, but it's not like going from 0 to 150,000 overnight.
No, it's so different now.
Yeah.
And I did do that. I did it 24/7, 365, and I really went hard on it.
Yeah.
But it's hard now. It's like, I don't know. It's just it's totally different now, and I'm not like trapped at home with infinite time to like post, and I just find it so hard to create as much content as you need to on TikTok, and that I just kind of like give up. I don't even prioritize TikTok at all now.
Same.
And like Instagram is my full, like where I make most of my money and all of that, but it's like TikTok is exhausting to me.
Yeah.
But it's like where I got my start. So it's hard.
I think it's such a good funnel to get eyes on you, right? Like you can get so many eyes on you on TikTok, and Instagram just doesn't operate that way. It's like kind of starting to lean that way. but I just think it's so easy to be seen on TikTok and then funnel them to your other channels. And it is interesting. Like back in 2020, everybody's attention span started getting so short. And so we needed like those quick videos.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of going back a little bit. Like you see more people talking about YouTube, especially because of the TikTok ban or whatever. But I just feel like it ebbs and flows, and you have to be so adaptable in content creation to be able to be like, okay, I guess we're jumping to this platform now, and you have to learn a whole new thing.
Yeah,
exactly. It happens so fast. Like even, I don't know the name of that app that was like Red something. It was like
Note,
Red Note, the Chinese app that literally started taking off in 24 hours.
Yeah.
Like, there's like Lemonade too. I'm not even on that, but I get a bunch of requests to be like, they want to follow you on Lemonade. And I'm like, I don't know what that is.
I created an account, but I have no idea. I got on it, but I'm like, I can't handle another platform.
I'm an Instagram cult member.
Yeah.
Like I just am. It's where we've made all of our money, all of our actual valuable connections. Like even though we have a following on TikTok that is literally 10x what our following on Instagram is, no comparison on value or quality of follower.
And you can't, which Instagram is changing a lot too, which is hard. But like, at least for me, for the longest time, it was like TikTok is so hit or miss with content. Like if I do a brand partnership or something, it's like I can't guarantee it could get 2,000 views. It could get 2 million views. You literally have no idea.
Yeah.
None.
But Instagram, you got a little bit better of an idea.
And so like for the longest time, Instagram was very consistent of like, I know I'm going to get 100,000 views on most of my videos. Instagram has, I don't know what's happening to Instagram right now. That is not happening anymore to most people I know. It's been a big change because they're changing it to be more like TikTok's algorithm, which is very frustrating because we wanted Instagram to be the same. But
yeah, I feel like Instagram used to be all about aesthetic too. Like you felt like you had to post the perfectly curated post. And it's kind of, I think obviously due to TikTok, it's making it so it doesn't have to be like that anymore. But that's part of the reason people loved Instagram is because they like seeing that kind of content.
Yeah, we're aesthetic girlies. Like, let us have our perfectly curated feeds.
I know. And I'm like, I love photography. And I love that, like, for the longest time, Instagram was pushing Reels so hard that carousels and everyone just took their photos out of Instagram and it became Reels heavy. And I think that's, like, such a huge miss. But I think Instagram is circling back to photography right now. And so carousels are doing a lot better. And the way that you can integrate videos and like words on the screen into carousels is really fun. But also that is because they're copying TikTok. And TikTok did that to compete. And everyone's like, I can post my photos on TikTok.
Yeah.
Now Instagram's doing that. But
nothing is original online. I do have one tangent question here that is not on our list, but I'm so curious because I've seen you post about it a couple of times. And every time you post about it, I'm like, yes, like that, you know, people need to talk about this more. But with going viral and with having a huge social media following, that comes with bullying, right? That comes with online people who are going to be the trolls, who are going to fill your DMs with negative things. How have you been able to compartmentalize that, deal with that, you know, get used to that as you've gotten very large on social media?
You do get haters. Like as soon as a video starts to go viral, it's like you start seeing these hater comments. I'm like, oh, the video must be going viral because all these comments are coming out of the woodwork. Long story short, I was bullied as a kid, so I'm like, I'm used to that. And I think I just naturally have, that's just my personality of like blowing off. Like I have a thicker skin because of the way that I grew up. Whereas like I have friends and we talk about it, they're like, I would cry in my room for hours if someone told me that. But it's like second nature to me. So I feel like that is part of my calling, I guess, is I'm just used to that. And so it has helped a lot with being able to just like
let it go,
block it out. But like it depends on what it is.
Yeah.
Honestly, if it's something like body related, it really gets me because there's been a lot of like struggles with that my whole life.
Yeah.
And people will say mean, hateful things.
Of course.
Out of nowhere. And that, it's easy to be like, okay, that person is like sad in their basement, but it's like, it does kind of like hit home of like,
yeah, you don't forget it.
No,
you know? Like
and
you can like, address that it's not to be acknowledged, but you're
right.
Still
and it's like
you
could get a million positive comments, but 2 mean ones, it's like they live in your head rent free.
Yeah.
They really do.
Yeah, I feel that.
I can like take all the comments to me. I'm like, whatever, I don't care. The second they start commenting to Sarah, I lose it.
We are each other's bullies in that we're like, if somebody comes for Emily, I'm on their butt being like, how dare you? And vice versa. She's like, get out of these DMs.
I know. I feel like I can like handle it, right? Like I feel like
Yeah.
I've dealt with enough stuff in my life. I'm like, whatever. Like say what you want about me. You're sad. And then they start attacking Sarah and I'm like, like, get away.
That's why I'm with my friends too. I'm like a pushover when it comes to myself, but if you start going for my friends, I'm like, I'm gonna get you.
Yeah. I draw the line at you bullying me, but anybody else, we don't tolerate it.
All right, let's take a break from the episode to shout out one of our sponsors, Minoan. Are you running a short-term rental? You know how important it is to create a space that's both stunning and functional. That's why we love Minoan. Minoan makes it easy to furnish and restock your rental with high-quality, stylish pieces from premium brands at up to 60% off. Plus, their centralized ordering lets you check out across multiple brands in one seamless cart. No stress, no hassle. Excuse me, only having one place to look for my receipts when my bookkeeper inevitably asks for them? Thank you, Minoan. Then, turn guest praise into profit with a digital showroom where you can showcase your design expertise and allow your guests to shop their stay. And the best part, Minoan is free to use, so you can elevate your space without breaking the bank. We use Minoan ourselves, and trust us, it's a game changer. All right, let's get back to the episode.
Yeah. There's been some wild things though. It's like, why would you type that out on your phone and hit send?
Oh, people have like their full face on their profiles,
crazy.
like they're not private. People are so ballsy online. It's crazy.
The audacity.
Yeah.
The audacity. But I have been known to screenshot their profiles and put it on my story.
This girl I follow, Aspen,
Love that.
Aspen Ovard, who I follow, she's a Utah creator, and she will do that. And she will tag them in her story. She has like 2.3 million followers, and she will screenshot it, post it on her story, tag it, and be like, what is wrong with you?
Deserved.
And I'm like, yeah, you so deserve that. Because people like attack her kids and stuff.
Yeah.
I hate the internet. I love the internet and I hate the internet.
I know. It's like, it's a love-hate relationship. Like, there's only been a couple times where I've screenshotted it. It's been so bad that I'm like, yeah, this needs to be shared because it's wild.
Yeah.
And like, someone called me a 300-pound sack of potatoes one time.
What?
It was just some random guy.
Why?
He's like, watch out, you're going to become a 300-pound sack of potatoes. Like, I had some food on my story or something.
How dare you eat?
How dare. And so I screenshotted it.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I want to be a kind person. I probably shouldn't have done that. But I'm like, I'm just going to screenshot this and put it on my story.
Yeah.
And I did. And this dude freaks out. He's like, take it down right now. I'm getting harassed. And I'm like, well, don't tell me that then. Maybe you should think before you say something. And he's like, I don't know who sent that. And I'm like,
Sir.
Okay.
Sir.
And then and then he started calling me in the DMs of like, please take that down. And then so many people reported his account that his account got taken down.
Good.
Deserved. Like judge and jury here on Instagram. Like
To
canceled.
harass somebody and then be upset about being harassed.
Yeah.
That the audacity.
I'm anti-cancel culture except for in cases like that. Like you brought it on yourself, dog. Like what are we doing here?
Like, don't tell a random stranger on the internet they're going to be a 300-pound sack of potatoes if you don't want the repercussions.
Yeah.
Seriously.
It's like toddlers. Like,
Yeah.
it's mostly older people that I find are doing these hateful things.
Yeah.
Comments. It's like they didn't learn and grow up with it, that they didn't learn the etiquette that you can't just...
That there's a real person on the other end of that. That
Yeah.
it's not just I'm throwing hate into the abyss. Like
Yeah.
no, big creators still read every single comment. Like it doesn't reach a point where we all of a sudden just don't see it.
Mhm.
You know, like we absolutely do. So yeah, I've seen you post about it, and every single time you do, I'm like, I feel it. I feel it. We get it too.
so annoying.
I think that's why my account started growing so fast too in the first place, was it was during COVID and everything was controversial.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was out on a hike and it was controversial. And I'm like,
People will find anything controversial about a video,
Anything.
and then you're like, all publicity is good publicity, right?
yeah,
Like,
sometimes I purposely do something that might be controversial.
Yeah. I mean, that's same with us. We know that Airbnb is controversial for a lot of people, and I'm just like, bring it on. Like, we're going to keep screaming it because it is our livelihood. So
Yeah.
I am curious though, like now that you've gotten into it, and you've got this whole brand and Instagram has turned into a business, at least in our experience, we really probably had a shift where Instagram was something that was like very leisurely, very fun, a creative outlet, a side hustle. And then all of a sudden it becomes a business, and it doesn't matter. Like, I watched this girl the other day who is an Airbnb creator, and she was complaining about the fact that so many Airbnb hosts just want to do a gifted exchange, right? And they just want you to come to the property, stay at the property for free, and not pay the creator to create the content, and then go home. And she's like, I don't care what you do professionally. If it's work related, it's really not leisure. Like, it might be something like we might have cool jobs that allow us to like travel to unique places and get unique experiences. And like, in theory, everybody should be pursuing a job that they like genuinely like, but it doesn't separate it from being a job, you know? And so I'm just curious. I think this is one of the questions that I've gotten off track. So
No, you're good.
Yeah, I think it was. It's related in a way.
yeah. So my curiosity is like, what has it been like working with people in that way? Because you are a travel creator, and a lot of that I'm sure comes with pushback of people just being like, you get this cool experience and you should do it in exchange for content, and we're, you know, all of these things. So I'm just curious how you've navigated that.
That's a tough one because there's like multiple different facets of that. And it's like, yes, Instagram was fun at first, but it is my job. Like, I quit my corporate job. This is how I make money. And it's a really hard avenue with even like as a business and people that reach out to me and want me to do fun stuff for free. That it also depends on what it is. It's like, if it's something really, really cool, then maybe yes. But if it's something like totally out of normal and it's just like, oh, we want to give you this fun dinner, but it's in Detroit, it's like I have to drive 3 hours.
Yeah.
It's not worth it. And then it's like I look rude if I'm like, well, are you going to pay me? And they're like, no, it's a $400 dinner. It's like, okay, but like,
that's not my rates.
Also, how much are you making on me filming this dinner?
Yeah, like you're gonna make more than $400.
And so
like,
it's like tough because it depends on what it is. And like, if it's an awesome, I'm trying to think of some experience that was worth it. I don't know, if it's like a bunch of added stuff, like a resort and it's like massages and stuff like that, or even if it's like at the beginning of when I was starting things, there's a lot of differences. And now I'm really starting to put up boundaries of like, it's hard to be gone every single weekend, like from my life. And it is a job, like to go somewhere and film their property or do something. And so I've really had to put up boundaries of like, I can't do that anymore for free.
Yeah.
Like, it's really hard because one weekend out of my life is a big commitment because my life is so fast moving and there's so many opportunities. And like, one person is willing to pay me and one person's not. But it also depends on like, if I'm going up there, like up somewhere on my own and I need somewhere to stay, that's like where I would do it for free or something.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I just get pulled in so many different directions all the time that it's like, I really have to start putting up boundaries with, it is my job. It is fun. Like, my job is fun and I want it to be fun, but it does take away from it being a relaxing trip if I have to record everything. Like, I can't go into somewhere and like put my bags in. I'm like, everyone that's with me, I'm like, hold up. We got to film the video. We got to go in. Please get me walking into this place. It's like, I don't want to complain about it because it's an awesome job. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm like, all right. At first I was doing it and I'm like, this is fun. Like, I can do this and bring my friends places. But now that I'm years into it and I'm getting older and like, I have my community, it's like, I really have to
get paid.
Yeah.
Get paid.
And I feel like, especially for people that have maybe never hired somebody before, you kind of have to like teach them and explain to them like, how many people are going to see this and how much money are you going to make off of it? So it's like worth the investment. But if they've never seen that before, you're not only the content creator, but you're also educating them on what the content creation is. And so that's like double the work.
Yes.
So it can
that's
be
such a good point.
It can be that much harder if somebody's never done it before, but there's so much value in it. So
yeah. Well, and even me, like I had you go to Hale and that was just a gifted exchange, right? Like I didn't pay you to do it. It was just you get to stay here for free and post this content. And at that point in time, I didn't know the impact that having creators come to the property would make. And you were one of 3 creators that we had stay at that property. We had 2 other Detroit-based lifestyle content creators come. And all of you had over 100,000 followers. You know, all of you had a similar base of people who were looking at you on social media, but because your followers are following you for travel Michigan recommendations versus the other 2 followers that were lifestyle, beauty, makeup, happened to be in Michigan creators, the result that we had from yours versus the result that we had from the other 2, I was like, I mean, I told you afterwards, I was like, I would pay you to come do that again, right? Like,
I know, because I reached out. I'm like, so would you pay me? Because like I'm figuring it out too.
Yeah.
And so it's not like your fault or any Airbnb owner's faults. But it's like, I feel like people are learning more and more.
Yeah.
And like you had to test that out with me, and I had to do that with a few Airbnbs and reach out and be like, hey, what was the return on investment? And everyone's like, oh, we booked 5 stays. And it's like, I just made you guys, no, like not to you, but like just everyone. It's like, I just actually made you guys $20,000.
Yep.
And I did that for free.
Yep.
So like that's where I had to think about it in a different way of like putting up some boundaries on I need to get paid a little bit, at least because Airbnb owners are small business owners. It's like I don't want to gorge you guys out of your money.
Yeah.
And like I understand that you can't pay the same amount as a big huge brand like that I've worked with. Like they pay thousands and thousands for one single post. And it's like, I need to come up with something that's beneficial for both parties of like, it's worth my time and money and like investment. And it's also worth it for you guys because now I have a case study that shows when I work with an Airbnb or a hotel, it leads to direct bookings because I have that niche.
Yep.
And like my followers are looking for places
Yep.
and looking for things to do. So that's why it's important for businesses to partner with people that align with their niche.
Yeah.
And like, I have that, like, that's something I have going for me. So that's like exciting. But then my struggle is still like the time.
Yeah.
Because like, I mean, I feel so bad. Airbnb owners are reaching out to me like
left and right.
I'm sure. And I just ghost because I get so overwhelmed that I'm like, I don't know how to fit. Like I don't even know how to explain it. It's just so overwhelming to me because I'm like, there's all of these opportunities, but I just don't have the time to be
capacity.
Like all over here. And it's like Michigan is not a small state. Like an Airbnb could be 8 hours from me.
Yeah.
Or like 30 minutes.
Yep.
And so it's just, I don't know, that's tough. But I feel like more Airbnb owners and hotels and stuff are willing to pay at least something. And like I'm coming to the table with like a package of I can do this, this, and this for this amount. What do you want?
Yep.
And so I've had a good response to that. I don't do it that often because I get so overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But like Airbnb content performs really well for me. So it's like, I don't know. It's hard.
Yeah, you've got to be selective with the Airbnbs you choose to work with.
I was just going to say that because, I mean, the worst thing that could happen is you show up and it's not a good Airbnb. Like, you have to be selective about those too because, one, if it is not great, then, like, your video wouldn't be great. Or you have to work that much harder to make this Airbnb look good. And then you're like, do I want my followers to actually stay here? Because if I'm recommending this and then they stay and it's a bad experience, that sucks for them. So you do have to be selective, which I think is super smart.
Yeah, but Airbnb hosts in general, I mean, that's going to be our primary listeners on this as well. And we recommend you in our mentorship all the time when people are like, who do we hire for content? And we're like, Wandering Michigander.
Thank you.
Because
I do get people that are like, I heard about you from them.
Yeah.
And then I feel bad because I ghost them for months. But
okay.
like literally the people that I've worked with that I'm now friends with, it might have taken over a year of them like emailing me, maybe 2 years.
Fortune is in the follow-up.
And then once
Ain't
it
that the
like
truth?
connects and it works, it's like a partnership for life.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I feel so bad, but there's like nothing.
Yeah.
It's like a little bit out of my control because I have a million things going on that I'm like trying to prioritize in my own life and like being in relationship and like not being gone all the time. And
I feel like if they want it bad enough, like they're going to continue following up with you. So it's on them. It's not on you to like, it's on them to continue following
Bump the price up. Just be like, I'll do it for double.
Literally.
That's what I would do. I'd be like, sure, I'll come for twice as much. Like, how important is it to you? Like, are you desperate for bookings or are you not?
Right.
Yeah, literally.
But yeah, and there's just so few people that are in your position. There's like maybe 3 or 4 creators, at least that are in our orbit, you know, that are not even Michigan based, just Midwest based creators that, you know, are doing what you're doing. And every single time we're like, especially for Airbnb hosts, when they launch a direct booking website or, you know, they launch their own Instagram or whatever the case may be, that's, at least in our opinion, the best time to bring on a creator because it brings traffic that you get to kind of hang on to as opposed to just driving more traffic to Airbnb. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's tough out there to get creators in Airbnbs because there's so few, which is great for you.
Yeah,
but
it is great for me. I'm like, you know, there is a market out there and it's like, I don't know. Michigan is in the Midwest is totally a different creator economy than like out West when there's
the Utah
million
moms and
people that are doing it. And so that's where it's like special. And that's why I think I have had so much success being like Michigan niche is because no one was doing that.
Yeah.
Literally.
Still.
Yeah. I don't know. There's a couple people that were doing it before me, but they were a little bit different than me. It was more like just photography based. But I'm like a mix between lifestyle a little bit and like travel and photography.
Yeah. I was going to ask about your photography because you're a fantastic photographer. My husband actually was looking at your profile last night. And he's like a hobby photographer and he was like, oh my gosh, her stuff is incredible. So I was going to ask, like, do you think that kind of leads to like a benefit for you? Because I know there's one and he's based out of Minnesota. His name's John.
I don't know how to say it.
His last
but it's
name
like
starts with a K.
K-R-E.
Yeah.
Cray?
And he has a couple books that he came out with. And he is like a very big in Minnesota specifically, but kind of the Midwest area. And I think that is a huge benefit for him. So do you see that being like people asking for photos as well as videos when they're coming to stay?
Yeah, I follow him. He's like inspiration.
He's
for me.
He's really good.
But yeah, I think that does separate me a little bit from being like just photography and just an influencer content creator. That's why I like being called a content creator, not like an influencer, because I love photography and that's like a passion of mine. And it takes a lot of work to like learn how to do all the things. Oh, yeah. But I hope that that's something that separates me from other people that are just going to post like a video, because I actually do like offer services of photography and marketing materials for Airbnbs that they can use like on their websites and stuff. So I have like a few different avenues of how I can work with people. I will say that I'm better at taking like nature photos and lifestyle than I am specifically Airbnb. It's hard. Like it's a different skill to do indoor stuff.
Oh
like,
my gosh.
Real estate photography and stuff. I'm like, it's a challenge. It's hard with lighting and all that kind of stuff. So I feel like my niche is like lifestyle photos in Airbnbs, like friends laughing in your Airbnb. It like gets more of a feeling of than just taking photos. Like that's, I feel like where my niche would be is if you want good photos for your Instagram that entice people to come, maybe not like product listing photos, but but yeah,
that's exactly how I would describe you. And even when we like stay at Airbnbs, same thing. It's like, look, none of us are going to give you the quality of photo that a professional architectural digest, person is going to be able to give you. But that doesn't mean that the photography that's lifestyle based isn't super important for your Instagram, because I think that Instagram in particular and social media in particular, there's almost a trick to like not over editing, you know, and not having it too staged and not having it feel not real.
Yes.
You know,
user generated content.
Yes.
That's like UGC is what I would say is like if there were photography for Airbnbs, that would be like my niche.
Yeah.
It's like I probably don't have the equipment to make it look like real estate photography, but I can do all of the other things and like even provide, like I've provided photos for people's websites and stuff like that because they don't need all of that, but I love photography, so I love incorporating that into everything.
Yeah, I love that. Where do you see your channel going? Like as you kind of project out of like, okay, I've built this thing that's super successful. I've got a gazillion and a half opportunities knocking at my door. Like, what does next steps look like for you? How do you imagine this kind of unfolding in your life?
I have no idea. I'm like, everyone asks that all the time. Like, what's your 5-year plan and all of that? I'm like, I literally don't have a plan. Like,
I love that.
I just let it go wherever it's gonna go. I'm like, I have no idea if the next year will bring opportunities or not.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of like what I have to be okay with living my life is that I'm like, this could end next year, next month. I have no idea how much money I'm going to make in one given year or what opportunities are going to come because they are random sometimes. So then it's like, I don't know. I've calmed down on my traveling a bit in the past couple years because the first 2 years when it was like booming and I was trying to grow a brand, it was like boom, boom. I was gone every single weekend somewhere and now I'm like burnt out from that.
Yeah.
So trying to find a balance and like it being my job, it being for fun, getting to live a really cool life. I know that I want to be a mom. I want to have a family someday. And so it's like I can't be gone all of the time. So like it's really hard finding a balance of like living now and doing all the opportunities and knowing that I might not be doing that for the rest of my life. But also I could do that. So like I could take my family and my kids to all of the things that I do. So it's like I'm very free-spirited, I would say, of like seeing where my life takes me and just you never know what could happen because I never saw this happening for my life. I could go back to a corporate job. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I'm like open to whatever happens. I don't really see myself going back to a corporate job because my experience wasn't the best. And I just feel like I'm not meant for that. But I'm like, I don't know. There's so many different directions that my page could go, that I could go. But it's like I have so many opportunities in Michigan that pop up all the time and I can't fit them into 1 year that I'm like slowly realizing I don't have to cram everything into everything because I will have time to keep doing that.
Yes.
And so far it's working out and it just stuff keeps happening. So I'm like, we'll see.
Yeah.
I love that you said you want to bring your family as a mom and having somebody to follow who was like regularly traveling, like Zoe Berghoff, a friend of ours, she travels all the time. And just having somebody to like give you tips on traveling with a baby or something like that would be so beneficial. So I think that, and then like it's totally possible to travel with your kid. My son comes with us everywhere. And so it's for sure like you could keep that up. And then you already kind of have like boundaries in your head of what you don't want to film and what you do. And so I think that would be such a good like avenue for you to go down eventually.
Yeah. I definitely see that happening. So
well, and also just from like a consumer standpoint of like consuming your content for years, you know, I think most people, and I speak for myself here too, started following you because they wanted Michigan tips of where to travel, but you also have a really dynamic personality. You're also easy to, you know, listen to and follow along with. And so like, at least for me personally, if you started pushing out non-Michigan travel related content and it was just about you cooking or like, you know, something totally different, like I would still, as one of your current followers, still be into that, you know? So you really could go any direction because you've got a personality that's fun for people to watch as opposed to someone who's just showing travel stuff. So
I appreciate it because I'm like, I don't know if I could ever do that. And I like, that's a question that I'm like, would people follow me if I did like lifestyle stuff? I don't really want to do lifestyle stuff, but yeah, it's good to know that I could like pivot and
You've got options.
do that. Yeah.
You've got options. Where are we?
We are wrapping up. We're getting to the last question here. I know the
Oh.
time flies, but I'm going to
does
go in the
fly.
literal opposite direction of the question that she just asked, because I'm trying to end every episode kind of on the same question, because I think there's a lot of pressure, like looking forward, what's your 5-year goals? Like you said, like that's kind of a lot of pressure. So I want you to look backwards. And what is the best decision that you made over the last year that got you where you are today? Because I think when people are like sitting maybe where you were last year, they're like, what's my next move? What decision do I make to get to where she is? And so I think like that advice is really beneficial for people.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. I would say prioritizing what is important to you and not necessarily what everyone else wants to do, because I've spent years just doing what everyone else wanted to see and stuff like that. And like you said, you might be interested in following me for more than just like what I've been doing. And so I feel like incorporating your passions into what you're doing, like for me, that is including more photography, even though that might not perform as well. But it's like, I have to do that for me.
Yeah.
And also, like the best tip for social media, if you're trying to look to build a brand, is to stay consistent. I don't always do a good job at that, but that is what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
And just to get on like a schedule of posting. And I think that is seriously what helps you build a brand and like get to the place you're in and like create a schedule for that, which I'm preaching to myself.
Emily's preaching to me.
I've been trying.
I'm
It's
not good with
hard.
schedules.
I'm not good at schedules. So I'm like, that is what I'm trying to do. And like what I've really found for me is I'm not a routine person, but I need a routine
Yeah.
of like working out, taking care of your mental health and your physical health. And like, I really love that whole avenue of like eating good food for yourself. Like all of that helps me do my job better.
Yeah.
And I think like you get burnt out so fast if you don't take care of yourself.
Oh my gosh.
I
I
feel that.
love, because we said the same things with Carrie on our last guest episode. And I love that that's the theme that we're talking about, because
Yes.
we're both kind of in that like life now where we're like, we need to prioritize our health in order to do better as like people, as like a mom, a wife, at our job. And I love that that's something that you're saying too, because
Yeah.
just pushing that message
Hopefully
even more.
I came across, because I sometimes go down rabbit holes and it doesn't make sense.
No, it
landed. It
It
landed.
definitely did.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think this is a year that Emily and I both are, we're transitioning out of our 20s into our 30s, and that just comes with a reality check of like, we are not in our 20s anymore. Hangovers are worse. We've got more responsibilities. We want to live long, healthy lives, and that reality check just hits at this stage in our life. And so we haven't drank in 5 weeks now, 6 weeks now.
Yeah, not since the first. I'm going the whole year.
I'm
Wow.
going to try and go the whole year. I'm not as committed.
Yeah, I drink a way less now than I used to, and I still do every once in a while, but not the way that.
You don't have to be as committed. I think your reasons are different than mine anyways.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's fair.
But it is true. It's like once you start making the changes for your body, and like it's just a game changer.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, I could not be handling the stress that I'm in with this Cadillac situation if I wasn't nourished with vegetables and lots
Yes.
of water and no alcohol, and just like being at least mentally and emotionally at the best spot that I could be for a stressful situation. And like, so I watched a TikTok last night that was like, they were like, this is just a reminder. If you're going through a really hard time and the world's beating you up, just know that there are people out there who are doing it with kids.
I get people send me that all the time. They're like, oh my gosh, my life is so stressful, but then I remember that you're doing it with a kid and I feel so much better. And I'm like, well, I'm glad I can make you feel better, because I'm
my
barely
comfort.
holding on here.
No, that's literally how I feel. I'm like, how do people do that with a kid?
You feel like a superhuman when you do it with a kid. It's so fun. It's like when you get through something, you're like, oh my gosh, I did that with a child screaming in my ear.
Yeah, baddie.
You know, some of us are just better.
Yeah, literally. You're built different. I admire you. Well, Taylor, this has been an absolute pleasure. I'm going to try really hard not to drag this episode out another 30 minutes like I usually do after the
Alright.
last question. So For our listeners, thank you so much for listening in again to the Carwell Chronicles. We will see you all next time. And Taylor, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Anytime. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.